I think that's just about to us to start back, folks. So if you're away from your screen, then maybe just making your way back.
Welcome back, everybody. And welcome back to folks online. And I just wanted to give a little shout out to Jenny, who's the online coordinator. Does an amazing job. Thank you so much, Jenny. It's always on the case. So there's a theme that runs through every month on the Saturday morning. And there's what is called a keynote talk that presents the theme, and then by the time I get here later on in the month, all the basic things about the theme, all the really important things, the primary attitudes and understanding about the theme will have been laid out. So then I can just play about, which suits me perfectly, I have to say. So I'm going to arrange myself here. So the theme for this month is a very, very broad one, the Dharma. And I'm not going to say much in a general way, just to say that that term Dharma covers lots and lots of different things, including the teaching of the Buddha, the teaching of the teachers after the Buddha, the formal teachings, the oral teachings, for example. That all comes under Dharma. And at another level, Dharma also includes one's personal exploration of the principles of the teaching. So you get very formal teachings like Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, for example. They're very practical ways of practicing Buddhism, and they're all guiding you into a more, you could say, intuitive experience of what is the spirit of the Dharma. I don't mean spirit literally, I don't mean it that way, but more the spirit of it. And that's in a way what I'm going to hopefully address this morning. So there's an approach, a teaching, which is using meditation to get into what is called access meditation or access absorption. And a way of thinking about this or imagining this is there's a portal or a doorway in front of you, and you have to get to that portal or doorway. And to get there, there's all kinds of terrain that you have to cover. Obstacles, things, there might be bogs, the quicksand, things that slow you down to get to the portal. So but the path initially to get to the portal is sometimes just strewn with difficulties, falling asleep or getting carried away, losing what you're doing, forgetting things, getting caught up in your own stuff. And you have to deal with all of that and come together more and more as a sort of embodied being. And then at a certain point, you come to the portal, the access, you could say, into appreciating the spirit of the Dharma in a very direct way, rather than just understanding it conceptually. So the conceptual understanding of the Dharma is important, but the direct experience of it is part of the aim. So there is a way, a part of the path is called the 5 meditation factors. And I'm going to talk about them as a way of getting to the portal, to have direct experience of the Dharma in your mind. So the first 2 are initial and sustained thought. So this is where you have a thought that you're going to do something, and the sustained thought is how you're going to do it, for example. So it has to do with clear thought, in a way, and ability to stay with an intention and follow that intention. So you, for example, you might just have the simple intention to stay present and aware with what's happening, rather than going off prematurely into the sky before you've can actually fly. And you stay with that intention. You go, okay, now I'm wandering off that way, I come back. That's all part of the sustained thought. Yeah, it's all keeping you focused on what's happening. And one of the sort of skill sets of these 2 things is subtle thinking. So I want to make a distinction between what you could call ordinary or obvious thinking and subtle thinking. So obvious thinking is the kind of thinking which is like talking to somebody in your mind. Well, you know, what you need to do to meditate is to sit down and focus and stay with what's going on. And it's very much, almost you could say, it's quite loud. And it's more at the front of the head. And that thought takes as long as it would to actually say it. So this is it's an important function of thought. But when we enter into meditation and mindfulness, we need to come to our ability to have more subtle thinking, which is much quicker, it's more intuitive. And that more instantaneously just says, arrive, come into it and stay with it. And it just happens. You know, it's just, the thinking is more at the back of the head and it's quieter. Now, this is not a sign of higher development. We all have the ability to have subtle thought, and we all have subtle thought all the time, actually. But what we do in the meditation is we start to harness it for our own aims, to help us become, in a way, more sensitive to what's happening. Because when you use ordinary thought, to put it bluntly, ordinary thought just deafens you to everything else. It's just so obvious, it's so much in the front, you can't actually be sensitive, or as sensitive as you need to be, about what's going on in the background. Whereas, and so it's sort of opaque, the thought kind of blocks you off from experience. Whereas the subtle thought, it has more of a nature of being translucent, in as much as you can be aware of the breath, for example, and you can have the subtle thought, stay, and the word or the intention doesn't block you from the experience of the breath. Or you might have going off, come back. The subtle thinking happens in a way that allows you to actually stay with that process. Whereas if you go to obvious thinking, you're going off. Oh, what? And you're away, it takes you out of experience. So that's why this subtle thinking is so important, and it's a skill. It takes time to get used to it and to become familiar with it. But it's a primary skill. So it's really worth, the intention, to do it. So this is part of initial and sustained thought. And what happens as you get more skilled in this ability to have subtle thought in an initial and sustained thought is that it grows with your actual development. It's not, your thinking isn't stuck, it's flowing. Oh, I'm going away, coming back, settle, more throttle, settle, glide, bit more throttle, up a bit. And the actual thinking is what you could call connected thinking, rather than disconnected, which is obvious. Thinking is very disconnected, or it disconnects you from what's actually happening. So you're aiming to have the kind of thought that is connected to the actual process that's actually going on. Going off, coming back, pushing too hard, backing off, energy, staying with it, gliding a bit more throttle. And this skill in initial and sustained thought are two primary factors in growing and developing meditation. They're primary, really. So you need to, in a way, this is part of the background to doing the mindfulness of breathing and the development of loving kindness meditation. You learn the meditation, but this is in the background. This is part of the skill set of doing that. The third factor, it's translated, the initial word that's used is priti, which is translated in lots of different ways. But I think the best translation I ever heard came from a German teacher, Lama Anagarika Govinda, which is inspiration. I think it's a wonderful interpretation of the word, in as much as it's in the spirit of it. Sometimes it's just translated as enjoyment and frowned upon because you shouldn't enjoy yourself too much or get caught up in pleasure. But actually, thinking of it as a movement towards or forwards is much more true to the spirit of what priti is. You start to get this aspiring energy, inspired energy to practice. And part of the skill here is to actually recognize it. Go, oh yeah, I'm into it, I'm up for it. And there is a sort of movement of energy, which is part of the the experience of inspiration. So there's this, sometimes you could say that in terms of direction, it's going up or it's uplift. You can actually sometimes directly experience this in your body as your body just lifts up when you get in touch with this meditation faculty. You're checking, you're going away, you're adjusting, you're checking your initial sustained thought, and you're like this. And then at a certain point, you notice that your body has changed and that there's much more a sense of uplift in your body. And that is a sign, in a way, that meditation faculty of priti or inspiration or uplift is operating. Oh, we have uplift. That's good, tick. And you stay with it. Now, there is an art to this, because sometimes it can feel quite intense. And part of you might go, I'm not used to this. You say, relax, get used to it. Just get used to it. It feels different, but that's fine. Just get used to it. It can feel like a lot of energy in your body. You can sometimes get very hot, and you just get used to it. Don't think, oh, this is a distraction from the breath. No, it's part of the whole thing. And so you feel that energy in your body, and in a way embrace it without grasping it. That's a very Buddhist thing to say. You embrace it without grasping it. You enjoy it, but you don't hold on to it. So there's no kind of clinginess to it, but you enjoy it. You let it have its life. And this is quite an important principle in Dharma practice, in Buddhist practice, that you're following something, but you don't get to say, oh, this is great, I'm going to hold on to this. No, you let it move, actually, and move you even. And you might, this is an aside, you might find that over time, the whole shape of your body changes. Sometimes people's body starts cracking. In a good way, I mean. You see go crack, crack, crack. As the energy moves, it opens your body. So you might be, for example, like this, and then the priti opens you, click, click, click. And you find that you're much more open and more upright. I mean, a number of you have heard me say this. My district nurse was always amazed how my measurement of my height changed according to my meditations. I could gain or lose an inch in my height depending on how my meditation was going. This was when I lived at the meditation retreat centre. And she's going, oh, you've been on retreat. For example. So it actually can be quite measurable. So you've got that third element of inspiration, uplift, momentum, energy, that's a sort of psychophysical experience that can include enthusiasm for practice. It can also be overexcitement, but you have to guard against that. Then, moving on to the fourth meditation factor, something quite different in a way. It's contentment, calm, deeper states of bliss even. States where there's a sort of, it's just an altogether deeper quality of contentment and and happiness, just to be with what's happening, which can grow and expand. It's not a finite thing, it actually keeps growing. But the relationship between the uplift and, as it were, the settling of this factor is important. You know, in a way, a lot of the time you need both. And the settling into contentment, the calmer, the deeper, even you could say more positively subterranean elements of mind is an important aspect of meditation. And it has its own scariness because it can be so different from ordinary everyday thinking and ordinary everyday experience. So it takes a little bit of getting used to as well. So energy 4, settling, calming, clarity, those are the first 4 of the meditation factors that we're aiming for, a bit observing, noticing in our meditation. And then the 5th one is, it's quite difficult to translate actually in a good way, I think. The original Pali is ekagata, which is a coming together of everything. So it's where your mind sort of flows and your body, everything comes together. And there's no resistance in what's happening and what you're doing. It's all flowing together. There's sort of a sense of stability in what you do, and a sense also of harmony in your how you are, and a sense of taking it all in with a sense of confidence. And there's at the same time there's a sense of movement. So that's quite a long description of it. I'm trying to give a sense of it actually, rather than just as a word definition. I mean, like I even don't want to use the word, but some people just translate it as concentration, which I just think just can be misleading. So yeah, coming together. So you've got this faculty of ekagata, and you can sometimes, when you get used to it, you just know when you've got it. And you know, oh, no, other times, no, I definitely don't have it. I'm disparate, all over the place, scattered. There's no ekagata here. But having it as an aim is important, to actually have this synthesis or integration of yourself is very, very important in the process. In a way, looked at from a certain point of view, it's almost like at the front of the queue. You're aiming to do that right at the beginning. You know, when you sit down to meditate, you're already starting that process of ekagata coming together. And the initial sustained thought, the inspiration, and the contentment are all come into that process. So, when these faculties come together, there's something, they come together and there's a change happens when they're all there and they're stable. Sometimes you have one, not the other, and that's instability of them. But when they're stable all together, then your ability to be sensitive to things as they are really changes. and your ability to be directly aware, for example, of how things change or how you change or how circumstances change is much more direct. And this is a very important stage in practicing the Dharma, because it moves from just knowing something to living it. And when you're living this awareness, this growth and development, it's very different from, oh no, I'm doing this because, and I have to do this because. And in that way, you have to do that in the beginning, but at a certain point there can be a change and it all is stable. And especially on retreat, that coming together of all the 5 factors is more likely to happen. So that's why, going on retreat is so valuable and so important. And I just take this moment just to recommend it to everybody. We've got, not just in this centre, but there are other centres as well. So if you go to Tree Ratna websites, you'll find all the different retreats that are going on. You can pick one and just commit and just do it. So that is, we're going to break up into little discussion groups in a moment. So what I'd like you to talk about is how you are with those factors. So you might need to remind each other what they are. The initial thought, sustained thought, inspiration, movement, contentment, and the coming together of everything. And how you are with that, in yourself, not just being theoretical about it. What is it that you need to pay more attention? Where are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? I mean, I think most people do have strengths and weaknesses in those areas. I mean, I had to work very hard at the contentment side. The inspiration and movement side was not a problem at all. I was, let's go. But the sitting still and being content, I really had to pay a lot more attention to, for example. And what's your thinking like? Is it more obvious? Is it more subtle? Is it directed? Is it scattered? Are you working with that? So those are the kind of things that I'd like you to talk about in your little group. So Jenny is going to do her magic with the online groups, and I will join you. I'm going to try you on, what time is it? I'm going to try you on 5 to a group, rather than any other number. So just watch me, because if you're looking away, you miss it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Similar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So make a little group. If you can, get
Yes.
Sorry, Heather, you got cut off there. Oh, we've got a few more minutes. Sorry, can I just intrude on everyone and just get Heather to finish off her sentence because it was so lovely. We were talking about the subtler things in life, and she was describing going out to the garden with her cup of tea. You're on mute, Heather.
Here we go. Yeah. Yeah, just connecting every morning with nature, really, by going out in the garden and just listening first and foremost. And there's always some birds singing and some background noise from the neighborhood. And it's just very grounding. And it's very good to do it first thing.
That does sound lovely. Thanks, Heather.
Pleasure.
I don't know, while we're waiting for people to come back, if anyone wants to just say a bit about what was discussed in your groups. I hope everyone managed to get into a group. How about you, Debbie?
Well, I came back, we were talking about meditation, the power of meditation in my group, because I just came back from Tara Loka yesterday, and I had the most mind-blowing experience. And although I'm very short, I feel like I'm 6 foot tall. So I was really relating to that expansion that he was talking about in your body. I feel like my heart expanded. And I can hold a lot more joy. I mean, I'm almost on a high. I'm doing my housework joyfully for the first time in many, many decades. So, yeah, looks like we're about to restart. So I'd really recommend anybody who's not been on a retreat to go. There's one coming up.
Absolutely second that. Transformative for me.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear you had that experience.
Thank you, Jenny. It's lovely to see you.
So, are they back? Hi, everybody.
Yes, I was confused.
Let me see who's here. Good. Yes, welcome back everyone online. And welcome back everybody here. So just a few minutes for any questions and answers. I would say more about, experiential, coming from, your own practice rather than something really theoretical about what's the nature of the universe, or in case you're tempted to ask something as abstract as that. So any questions? And you can let me know if any come up on the chat. Thank you. Yes.
One person in my group, and it wasn't me, just mentioned the issue of leaving meditation, of coming out of meditation.
Can you let her speak for herself? She's very good actually at speaking for yourself. Please do.
I was just saying, I find it harder to leave meditation and go out into the world.
Yeah.
And how do I keep? Like, I went for one phase where I just avoided everybody and everything, just meditating all the time.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a place where I'm thinking I should really be in the world at the same time.
No. See, it's much better it comes from you. I just mention a phenomena which if you're aware of it, you can guard against it. And the phenomena is called jarring. And jarring is when you've been in a more refined, subtle, inner more self-contained, exploratory, sensitive state, and you come out of that too quickly. You start talking too quickly, start doing things, start going on the underground, go to gigs or whatever, or even start thinking too much. Actually, just going into whoa, thinking can jar you as well in a funny kind of way. Well, not in a funny kind of way, it just happens, and it's very jarring. And jarring can put you off meditating. So it's a very real danger that one needs to watch out for. So the principle is slowly, if you can, come out of the practice, do something nice and simple, make yourself a cup of tea or something, and then gradually let the thoughts and the world come into your experience. So you can then take your mindfulness and the faculties of your mindfulness into the world, and you can embrace it, the noise and the bustle. You can embrace it without losing your awareness, actually. So I think that's the best way of approaching it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I find it very difficult after the meditation sessions to go downstairs.
Yeah.
Because there's so much noise, and I'm still in my little bubble. And it's nice to have a cup of tea, but it's just difficult to go into that energy.
Yeah. And just recognizing that is important. I wanted to make, Nelly, you've raised that, I just wanted to add to it, if I may. There's what you could call sensible caution, where you don't let yourself be jarred, but at the same time, what you can say the near enemy is being over precious. When being over precious is when you go, I can't possibly go and talk to anyone, but actually you might be a lot stronger than you think. But there's a balance there and a real decision there. Any other questions? Well,
the 5, we discussed in our group the 5 on the list, which I really don't remember, but he does.
That's what the brain is for, isn't it?
All of them are about developing, lifting our conscious awareness to the surface, so that we're conscious about what's going on in our mind, in order to, and once you recognise it, then you can let it be.
So that's a statement.
Yeah.
If I was to turn that into a question, part of the purpose of having those 5 faculties is that you experience change and the causal factors of change absolutely directly. And what that does is that it helps you become more fluid and less fixed and less held and less narrow. So it's the direct experience of change that has a transformative effect on you, rather than thinking, oh, isn't that interesting? Buddhism says everything's changing. Tick, what's next? Yes.
Like when we talked about the 5 faculties, did we talk just about in meditation? Because I could clearly see that's also reflected in real life as well, like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more skilled you are in them outside of meditation, the more it helps you in your meditation.
Or is it the other way?
Both. Both. I don't think this probably applies to you, but if your thinking is all over the place and you don't have any directed thinking in your ordinary everyday life, that's what you take into your meditation. If you can't finish your sentences in ordinary everyday life, and follow a thought in everyday life. It'll be a lot more difficult in meditation. You got that, didn't you? Right, there you go. We're out of time. It's not that I'm resistant to answering questions, we're genuinely out of time. So I'm going to finish with just one little point of information. It's not a very well-known fact that the North London Buddhist Centre has got a Facebook page. When I say it's not very well known, it's because I'm the only person who puts anything on it. And I've been putting things on it about meditation and working in meditation pretty much every week for the last year. So there is a long list of page-length little things about meditation from me. And occasionally someone says, oh, there's an art show or something like that. But actually, the role is mostly just me. Which suits me fine, actually. It's great, because it's a way that I can get across some of the points I want to make in quite a concise way. So you don't even have to be a member of Facebook. You might be thinking, thank heavens for that. You can just, it's so retro. You can just go on it and just pick one and just read it. And if you do go on it, you can put a heart or a thumbs up, and then at least I know I'm not alone. But I'll be back in January, so hopefully